So the saga of the oxygen compressor continues. I finally scraped up enough money to get the seals for my Invacare 2 home oxygen compressor, which I am not using to compress oxygen, which to drag around behind me at the casino. I'm using it to fill 250 cubic foot K tanks. The machine is not designed to do that. It was never designed to do that. It can do it. It was not designed to do it. If you require more than one tank of oxygen every 2 days, I highly suggest looking into an HBO system, or in my particular case, I switched to liquid oxygen, which has got its own cacophony of pain in the ass that goes with it. So the disclaimer here is, if you are not used to working in an oxygen safe environment, if you don't know the difference between a 10 millimeter and a 3/8, if you don't have what I would consider fairly advanced mechanical abilities dealing with anything mechanical, if you don't know how to work a ratchet, this is not the job for you. The parts are expensive, and the outcome can be disastrous. Best case scenario is you blow $158 on the seals, and you throw that money away because you didn't do it right. Worst case scenario is you burn your garage down and you kill your cat. So take it for what it's worth. I am a professional mechanic and an amateur engineer, so we can take that for what it's worth too. Now, anything that you see in this video, you're taking under your own wing, or you're taking your own risks in doing it. I do some shady shit in this video with high pressure oxygen, which is not cool. You have to be willing to take that responsibility under your own. You have to be willing to take that responsibility on your own. My political statement is, we are suffering from a competence crisis, and nobody wants to take responsibility for their own actions. You take this machine apart, you start futzing with the inside of it, you are responsible for your actions, not me. So there you go. Enjoy the video. If you learned something, leave a like and a comment. If you think I'm an asshole, which most people do, leave a like and a comment. Every like and every comment adds to the YouTube algorithm, and my analytics tell me you're only going to watch 4 minutes of the video anyway. 3 minutes I've already wasted on a disclaimer telling you that what I'm doing in this video is sketchy as all get out. Don't smoke around oxygen. Okay, welcome back. If you're watching this video, chances are that you already know what this is. If you don't know what this is, then this video is kind of a waste of time for you, unless you're one of my many detractors and fans of the show here. So, this is my Invacare Home Fill 2 oxygen compressor. Now, I have a couple videos on this particular thing, and if you're not familiar with them, you can go back and watch those videos. So I purchased this thing in March 1st of 2023 is when I pressed this thing into service. I forgot when I bought it to write down how many hours were on this thing when I got it. So I'm actually going to do that right now while I'm thinking about it, because I got a short memory. Old man with the stenods. 3, 6, 5, 4, 6, 9. 3, 5, 6, 4, 6, 9. So I'm going to say that that's 3,500 hours on this machine. 3, 4, 24. Okay, so I marked that down. Now, one of my previous videos, I explained how I explained what happened, or what happens with these things. In my experience, it's the only one I've ever had, and I've done a good bit of research on these, and this looks like it's something that happens more often than it probably should. And so what happened was the seals popped. These are the seals. These are the new seals that I purchased from eBay. This is a... These two seals are for stages 4 and 5. These seals and the guide, the little guide things, are $159 for these 2 or 4 pieces. I searched high and low, low and high, everywhere I possibly could to try to find these seals at a cheaper price. The only thing I did find was that I found these, just the seals, from another supplier for $100. But after taking this apart the first time, and I came to realize that it's probably best to replace those guides also. If you don't replace the guides, it's, you know, it's like putting rings in a car and not putting pistons in it, or bearings or whatever. As far as I'm concerned, taking this thing apart is like taking apart an engine. If you don't do one thing, you're gonna get screwed doing a whole bunch of others. So I'm gonna pull the head off of this. Oh, then in another video I did also, I explained how to jump these 2 cylinders. Okay, so this is cylinder 4, this is cylinder 5. So this is the, from what I can gather, that this is the like 1,000 to 1,500 PSI, and then this is 1,500 to 2,000 PSI. And it makes a lot of sense, right? So this is a radial engine, blah, 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 a radial compressor, but it's a radial engine. So I'm going to show exactly how I did this. And there's another dude on YouTube, his name's Mike Peterson. He does a video on how to do this also. He does a great video on it. And watch my video and then watch his video before you try to take one of these things apart. So these have a one-way valve in them. Okay, so mark this before you take it apart. So this one's marked top, this one's marked top. This one's pretty self-explanatory because it has a high pressure switch on the side. You can't screw that one up, but you can, and I did screw this one up taking it apart the first time. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing out of the way because I don't need this in here anymore. If you don't have line wrenches, I would suggest buying them. Not necessarily just for this job, but in general. You only need them to crack it loose and to do the final tightening. So I'm just using a regular open-end wrench on this one to get this thing out of my way. I could probably turn this now. Yeah, there we go. So this is the valve, the check valve, the final check valve before you fill it. So we're going to move that out of the way. Now, this line will eventually go back on the bottom of this one, but we're not going to do that just yet. This is a 7/16. You can squeak an 11mm in there. These bolts are super duper long. This one's actually loose. That's not good. Now I've been running this unit with these cylinders open to atmosphere, so I'm a little curious to see what the inside of the cylinder bore looks like. When I took this apart the first time to try to fix this thing by cleaning the cylinder bores, I polished the bores. I don't know if I showed on a video what I did, but what I did was, oh yeah, okay, so that did do exactly what I thought it was going to do. I've been running this thing with the bad seals, and you see the cheese, there's, for the sake of argument, we're going to call it cheese, but it's debris. Let me get a better pointer here. So there's a considerable amount of debris in here, okay? That's the seal. So this is the end of the seal. This is the cylinder bore itself, okay? So this is the cylinder, and then this is the end of the seal. And I really hope it shows up on camera because this is like really important. You'll see there is a considerable amount of debris in here. Might wanna, there's a considerable amount of debris in there. Well, what's that debris? Well, that debris is the cylinder seal that's been coming apart for months now. See if I can get this to turn. You know, I'm just going to pull this off here. So this is the cylinder bore itself. And then that there is the seal. And then I'm going to just take a quick look inside of this thing here. Well, the upside is it looks like it just blew right out of there. All right, so this is the cylinder bore. We're going to get back to the cylinder bore in a second. So this is the seal right here. And it is not happy at all. You know, running without its, yeah, you can see here. That goo on there, that's not supposed to be there at all. The seal is degraded completely at this point. And like I said, I've been running it in a bypass mode. So hopefully, I didn't screw anything up. Now, I'm just using my fingers here. You did see me stick a screwdriver in there, and then I had a better idea. Which is I'm just going to pull this off with my fingers. Okay, so that's the seal, and it is bad. There's no doubt about that. Now, okay, so now there's an O-ring here. There's an O-ring right here, and then there's another piece of the cylinder, and then this is the cylinder ring itself. My assumption is I didn't take this part off when I took it apart the first time, so we're all going to learn about this together. Hopefully, this will come off. Well, maybe not. I'm going to take a kind of a blunt pick here. Let's see if I can get this off. One of the things I need to stress is forever how tempting it may be to put some kind of lubricant on this. Do not do that unless you have oxygen safe. Unless you have the oxygen safe lubricant that goes inside of these machines, which is like $150 or $200 a tube. I do not recommend that. Let's see if we can get that off of there. This is a blunt pick. As a matter of fact, I just deburred it a little bit. This thing's pretty blunt, so I'm going to use this. See if I can get behind the cylinder, or get behind the O-ring here. I'm trying not to damage the O-ring. Note when I took the seal out of there, the spring was facing outwards. Yeah. So actually, it's very, very interesting now that I'm looking at this. The this O-ring is worn pretty badly on one side, so I got to go through my O-ring assortment and swap that out. I've got O-rings that are safe for oxygen use. Look that up. I don't want to break this because the new one has to go on, and I don't want to break that one either. So, These look like they're beat too, for sure. They've got a lot of scoring on them. Yeah, that's not too good. Now, I know this isn't going to show up on camera, I don't think. So we'll see if we can make it work here. I'm not crazy about this camera. So that's the cylinder bore. And like I said, it's not really showing up well on camera. Yeah, it's overexposed. But if you turn the bore, if you turn the cylinder, you'll see, I can see here in live and living color, that there is some scoring in the board. It's not catastrophic. I'm going to just run a very clean alcohol, 91% isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to clean these up, clean this all up, and then I'm going to go get out my O-ring assortment set. And I'm just going to clean this cylinder. I'm just going to clean the piston up where the guide sits the best I can. I'm using alcohol because I'm not exactly sure what else to use, to be honest. I'm really tempted to unscrew the cylinder guide too. Yeesh, there's all kinds of cheese in there. And there does look like there's some kind of lubricant on here, but I'm not going to disturb that. I'm not going to clean that off of there because I don't have an oxygen safe lubricant to put back on there. Oh, there's a split in that too. Huh, interesting. Okay, so that thing is just the, this is just a guide. I just wanted to be able to clean that a little. I'm going to put that guide back on there. I'm going to take and just swab that out real quick. This end, I'm not going to futz with this end, just this end here. Okay, I'm just going to clean that out. I'm a little lazy. I don't feel like moving the camera 3 times. Now, I'm going to put this back on. Now, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if this is going to bottom out. No. Now, theoretically, there should be no oxygen on this side of this. Now, I'm not totally worried about it, but I am worried about contaminating this side of it, so we don't want to do that. The other interesting thing is this doesn't thread in all the way. I'm going to have to compare it to the other side. So it looks like to me this is adjustable. And the other side, the high pressure side over there, is a lot lower. So the other place I got to clean out is this thing. I'm going to hit it with some high pressure air. So I gave that the business with some high pressure air to get that cheese out of there. And then I'm going to go grab my O-ring assortment. Hopefully I have one that's the right size. It doesn't look like it's anything special. So this is the O-ring that I have, which is very close to the one that I took out of there. I will say it does look like it's not quite as thick, but this one's beat, so who knows. Okay, I'm going to clean that up with a little alcohol before I put it on there because I don't know where it came from. Now, I looked up on the inner tubes, and the O-rings that I'm using are oxygen safe. I can't find any that aren't, actually. The black ones are nitrile, and the other ones are, this is HNBR. So the green ones and the black ones should be okay to use with oxygen. If they're not, we're going to find out. What's more important is cleaning just getting everything pretty clean. Okay. Put the cylinder guide in. Slide that over there. Now this thing's got a little split in it to allow it to slide over. Kind of being a little careful there. Alright, well that bent when it came apart. But it's back to kind of where it was. It was perfectly tight like that. So that's what that's for. It's literally just like a piston ring. Let's clean this end up a little here. Now I was pretty thorough with my polishing of the cylinders before when I did the bypass, I polished the cylinder bores pretty good. Now I have a little alcohol here. I'm just gonna wipe it on this O-ring. That O-ring on. That O-ring on there. Now I'm going to take a little. Alcohol on my cotton swab and clean this end, and clean this thing off pretty good. I'm swapping these out like every time, so there's little to no cross contamination. And it's really dirty inside this bore, so I'm actually going to clean this pretty good. Okay, so I cleaned this out really well. Now keep in mind that I had actually polished this bore. I polished this bore previously with a very, 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 very fine jeweler's rouge, and I hope I didn't fuck the bore up when I did that. But the bore was pretty heavily scored, or at least it looked like it was scored. Full disclosure, I am a mechanic. I'm an automotive mechanic, so I'm fairly familiar with the construction, deconstruction, and rebuilding of automotive engines, internal combustion engines and what have you, and all the other associated stuff that goes with that. So if you're not comfortable taking something apart, I don't recommend doing this. This is slightly above the average skill level. Let's put it this way: if you don't know what a 7/16 wrench is, you might not want to get involved. All right, so there, for the grace of God, go I. I'm going to put the cylinder, I'm going to put the piston, or I'm going to put the seal in. Now this is the brand new seal, is right here. Once again, this seal is worth about $75, which is kind of crazy, but that's what it is. No matter what I did, I couldn't find anybody that had them any cheaper. I'm just going to roll this thing on with a little bit of pressure. Hopefully it'll seat without too much effort. Okay. Okay, that looks... Now, when I took this thing apart originally, I actually took pictures of it. I can put pictures in, so I know exactly how this thing is supposed to go in, supposed to go on. This is my cylinder bore. We're going to slide the cylinder bore in. We're going to jam it in dry. And hopefully it'll... Oh yeah, okay. I'm not going to take it back off. All right. So now I can see what's going on here. So when I threaded this piece all the way in, okay, what that does is it adjusts the deck height. Okay, so we're going to assume that this is the... I'm using automotive terms because that's the only terms I know. So this is the deck, okay, and then this is the cylinder head. Okay, so this is the cylinder head. This is the engine block. I'm going to I'm gonna clean that out a little bit too. I'm gonna back this. I'm gonna turn this out. My assumption, when I took this thing apart, it looked like it was at what would be considered top dead center. Yeah, I kind of like that. It looks like it's actually backing it off. Probably should have measured that, huh? Well, we all get to watch me screw up together, right? Isn't that the fun of watching videos on YouTube? Yeah, because that wants to be like that. I didn't want to take this thing back off. I don't like the way that that seal seated. Well, once again, there for the grace of God go I. So we're going to stick that on there, give that a little twist. Let's go in, and we're going to back this out. I'm going to spin this a little. Oh, it's building pressure. There we go. Okay, so that's top dead center, pretty damn close to it. Okay, I like that. Okay, I don't want the piston. I don't want the seal to come above the deck. That you hit a valve that way. I understand it's not a car. All right, so I'm going to take a little alcohol and swap this out. Dry it thoroughly. I don't want to put it together with wet alcohol in it because alcohol burns. I also replaced these O-rings with new ones because the O-rings that were in there were flat, and flat O-rings suck. So we don't want flat O-rings. Okay, now slide the bolts back in the holes. These have lock washers on them. Oh no, they just have regular washers. Probably should have lock washers. Probably should have Loctite on them. There's a little bit of corrosion on these bolts. My assumption is that's from the leak check that I used when I was putting these together. I'm just going to snug these up by hand for the time being. I cannot find a decent actual service manual for these things online without paying for it, and I ain't paying for shit. I'm already a little bit pissy about this project not working the way I had hoped it would. The short answer to this whole, or the short of this, is this particular thing, you know, this machine is not designed to do what I'm doing with it. It's well documented that these are not designed. These are not designed to do what the vast majority of glass blowers are doing with them. These are not designed to run for 36 hours straight, which is how long it takes to fill a tank. They're not designed to run, you know, they're just not designed for this. But I say, damn, damn you, I'll do it anyway. Okay, now I don't have a torque, like I said, I don't have the torque specifications for these, but I'm going to say that's probably maybe 10 pounds. About 10 pounds. I have this this funny little ratchet here that I bought decades ago from Snap-on, and it's got this split in it. You can get them from Harbor Freight too, but I know just by the feel of it, when this thing starts to flex a little, I know I'm tight enough. It's is the way of, it is the way. If you, yeah, I'm not even gonna go down that road. I'm trying to work around the camera here. Now these fittings are a pain in the ass. If you're not familiar with flare fittings, they are compression fittings, which is what these are. Good luck. Actually, I need to loosen. Oh, there we go. It kind of stinks that you can't use. I don't have any oxygen safe lubricant, because really you want to lubricate these before you mess with them, or else you. I also don't have the tool. I don't have the tool or the parts to make these things work right. Like, to fix them, if I break them, I'd have to buy that tool, and quite frankly, I will never, ever, ever need that tool again, so therefore I'm not buying it. Never start these with a wrench. Never start these with a wrench. I don't have a whole lot of choice, because I don't have the strength in my hand to rotate them by hand. So I'm doing exactly what I said not to do. Oh, you know what I do have? Before any other internet tool junkies point out that they make these as a ratcheting tool, I had the ratcheting line wrenches, and I broke them. So I broke the one that I used the most, and I just never replaced it because I retired from the business, and I don't feel like buying a new one. And it wasn't Snap-on, it was some other goofy brand, and the Snap-on guy wouldn't warranty it. So, even though I bought it from the Snap-on guy. Okay, now I'm going to snug that up like I mean it. And I'm going to put this one on. Same deal. I'm trying to kind of show you what I'm doing here. Again, do not tighten these with a wrench, or don't start these with a wrench. If you're not experienced in turning wrenches. One of the things that you got to be careful with on these lines are incredibly delicate. I can't stress how delicate these lines are. I'm gonna get out my line wrench and give it, tighten it like I mean it. Now we're gonna go over and we're gonna do the high pressure side. This is cylinder 5. Okay, this is the final cylinder. This is the high pressure cylinder. I'm fairly sure that this one is blown also. I know for a fact that cylinder 4 was bad. So now what's crazy with these is this is cylinder 5. That's how little that's how much compression there is, you know. So that's the way this thing works. It starts out with a relatively large bore diameter cylinder, and as it goes through its radial compression, it goes from bigger to smaller to smaller to smaller to this tiny little booger here, which is intended to hold 2,000 plus psi. The instruction, or not instructions, but all the recommendations for these systems, and in one of my other videos I literally mentioned, damn the torpedoes, I'm going to run it at 2,000 psi. Well, guess what? I blew the cylinders out of it, or I blew the seals out. Now, it had 3,500 hours on it, or it had probably 3,000 plus hours on it when I got it. That's a year of running. Well, a year of man year is 2,500 hours. So, you know, that's a pretty decent. I think that's a, you know, these aren't designed to run nonstop. They don't have the cooling for it. They're just not set up to do what we're doing with them. As a matter of fact, yeah, see, that one's loose too. I guess I just didn't tighten these up very much. I may have to go back and tighten those. After the O-rings settle in, I might give them another tighten. I'm curious if this bore is worn as weirdly as the other one. So I'm going to pull the head off of it. Hopefully I can just move that out of the way. Now this one, this one's got some corrosion around the top of the cylinder here. I'm going to actually slide this back on. You can tell just by putting it on that it's not right. I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have put this fitting on, but I'm not taking it off. So I'm going to take this one off. Now, you know what? I'm not going to. I'm just going to unduly stress this out of the way. These lines are copper, so they will crack. It's something I'm actually pretty worried about. But yet I'm still stressing them. I'm gonna hold the cylinder in place, and I'm gonna bring it up the top dead center again. Oh, there we get moved. And there's a considerable amount of cheese that has built up inside this cylinder also. And that's very interesting because that one, oh, that one's actually below top dead center, but I had this whole thing apart also. So. Okay, well, we'll find out when we put it back together. All right, so I'm going to pull the cylinder out. My magnetic light is not finding anything to magnet onto. Yeah, there we go. Now, I'm going to pull this seal off. Hopefully, this will just... well, destroyed that. I never took this seal off of here. I was kind of hoping it would come off with my fingers. That ain't good. Ow. Oh, the upside is there's no O-ring on this one. So that seal, that seal came apart. That's not, I rather that not happen, but it did. I wanted to inspect the seal before I damaged it, but now it's damaged, so, oh well. Okay, now, let's see if we can get this off of here. Again, I really didn't want to damage any of this stuff taking it apart. I understand that it's gone in the trash. It is garbage, but it's kind of, whenever I do jobs like this, I try not to destroy anything if I don't have to. There are things that are once and done. There's no question about that. Once it goes on, it probably should stay there. I do not have this size O-ring. I've gone through my entire, you can see all the cheese that's in there. I've gone through my entire hoard, and I don't have that size O-ring. See how dirty that is in there? It's like your ears after welding. Your ears, your ears after running a grinder all day without ear protection. That's what they look like on the inside, kids. Okay, so we're gonna scrub this as scrubbity scrubbed as scrubbed can be. I also polished this bore with a fine jeweler's rouge and a chopstick. I gotta get a better light. I can't see down the bore. If you've never looked down a bore, you always want to look down the light. You've noticed the lights shining down there. You can do it this way. Yeah, this thing's got to get a pretty good ridge in it. Maybe I didn't polish this one, because that looks terrible. Yeah, that bore is awful. I'm gonna shut the camera off, and I'm gonna put a little bit of polish on a piece of paper towel. Now I have some non-oil. I have some water-based polish that I use. I think that's what I'm going to use on this, because this bore is really bad. This machine's actually beat. So I don't have this O-ring. I don't have this size O-ring. I've gone through my entire hoard and I don't have it. Now I ran a straight. You can feel it. A human being can feel a thou, and this is well more than a thou over. So it's still got some life left in it. My preference would be to replace it, but I don't have it, so therefore I can't replace it. When I took this apart, now I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you, I took this thing apart well over 6 months ago. This thing blew up pretty quick. I'm not sure whether or not I polished this cylinder bore when I took it apart the first time. Yeah, I'm not sure whether or not I polished the cylinder bore when I took it apart the first time. I think I did, but I don't remember. Had a lot of Captain Morgan since then. So when I took it apart, I looked down the cylinder bore and it had a lot of cheese in it. It was really, really kind of cheesy looking inside of there. Now, granted, this thing's been open to shop atmosphere for months now. So that buildup could have been from multiple different places. It could have been from the ring rubbing against it, because the cylinder, this is the cylinder ring rubbing against the bore cylinder, the bore and leaving deposits, or it could have been the gasket, or not the gasket, the piston seal rubbing against there and causing problems. It could have picked up something from the shop and stuck it in there and just kept going away because it was just running. So what I did was I took out my handy dandy cordless drill and I wrapped a piece of wooden dowel with paper towel, and I ran the paper towel through 2 or 3 times dry, and it wasn't taking off the buildup. So what I did was I put a drop of water-based automotive polish that I use, and I ran it up and down the bore a few times. The polish that I'm using is it's almost the grit in it is imperceptible to humans. I mean, I use it as a final polish on automotive finishes, which is really soft. So compared to a hardened cylinder bore or chrome lined cylinder bore. So you can see all the cheese that I got off of there. That's not the polish, that's what I cleaned off. After I did that, I thoroughly scrubbed this thing with Windex, and then I gave it one last final shot with some isopropyl alcohol, that 91% isopropyl alcohol, to make sure the bore is nice and clear and clean. There is still some scoring in the bore that I can see. If this was a car, I'd be tempted to take a pick and stick a pick in there and just very gently, very, very, very gently. Well, if it was a car, I'd use my fingernail. But you could stick a pick in there and very carefully feel whether or not it's a perceptible scoring. It could just be cosmetic. I don't recommend doing that if you don't know what you're doing. Don't stick a pick in there and start digging around. You're gonna fuck it up, I promise. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm not your average mook. So the next thing is I want to just take a quick look on the back side of this. I have a feeling I'm just going to take some compressed air and a little bit of alcohol and wipe this off. Then I'm going to wipe this off, and then I'm going to reassemble it, and then we're going to plug it in. We're going to plug it into the whip. I'll put it back where it belongs. I actually moved it where it was because I didn't feel like working around all my equipment. We'll put it back where it belongs, and then we're going to see if it works. I hope it does. Yeah, okay. Take this wire off of here and just give this just a little bit of, yeah, we're gonna look at that a little. Yeah. That's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Let's get this mechanics wire out of here. I mentioned it earlier in the video, and I want to mention again, there's a guy named Mike Peterson who does, he does another video on this. It's better than mine. Again with the alcohol. The nice thing about you could probably use acetone also. I'm using alcohol because that's the least. See, look at all that cheese in there. Yeah, that looks like that's the inside of my ear. I'm using alcohol because that's the least aggressive solvent that I have laying around here, other than soap and water. Blow that out. Some more alcohol. I'm just gonna clean that ridge. I should probably take this whole thing off, but I'm not going to. The cost of these seals is such that I I probably will not do this again. It's not worth it to me. This particular system is fine for hobbyists. It's fine for hobbyists, like real hobby guys. You know, like you blow glass once a month or once a week or so, and you know that's it. You run through a bottle of gas. This is for somebody who runs through less than a bottle of gas every couple days. I run through a bottle of gas a day, if not more, and this is a stopgap measure for an HVO system. Right now, this particular setup cost me, I hate to admit it, about $3,000 by the time I was done buying. By the time I was done buying the oxygen condensers and the plumbing was an extra couple $100 that I hadn't taken into consideration. Of course, because why would I take that into consideration? All the damn fittings that I needed added like $500. Let me turn that off. Yeah, I'm looking at myself in the camera. Yeah, the fittings added another, all the fittings, the whip hose, all the hose and everything that I needed to do this was probably another at least $250. So I'm just sticking this thing on and trying to roll it on with my finger in an even way. It looks like it worked. So when this thing goes on, it creates like a cup. And then this actually is chamfered to allow it to enter. Just like that. I stick that on there like that. Now, I'm gonna put this, I blew all this stuff out. I'm gonna stick that in there. There. I really wish I had some torque specifications for these things. It'd really make me feel a lot better knowing that I was properly torquing these. You want to make sure that the cylinder head seats properly. It's not good. This casting is aluminum, so I'm a little nervous actually. It doesn't want to go back in. It's going in now. If at first you don't succeed, force it. Actually, these long ass bolts look like they were bent. Now you have to remember this takes 2,000 psi. That's a significant amount of pressure. I mean, we're not talking about 15 pounds going to your torch. This is 2,000 going to a bottle. So I want to make sure these fuckers are good and tight. I should probably put some Loctite on them. All right, now I'm just going to go over and retorque those other ones to make sure they're okay. Yeah, I'm not comfortable torquing those a lot more. Like I said, this is an aluminum casting. So right then and there, you got something that could go south at any given moment. Now, I got this bracket here. Where is it? Maybe I'll just, I hate doing it twice. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then I'm fucked. I gotta take the whole thing apart again anyway, so. So this bracket, I'm not gonna lie to you, I forget how it goes. It's been so long since I took it apart. So this goes, okay, so that goes like that, and then this threads into the bottom of that. Okay, it's not rocket science. See? My wife says I have the stenods. I don't believe her. I remember. And this is one of those places that are probably going to screw me. That's a great place for a leak. Alright, so I'll take that screw out there. Apparently I put that back in. I'm excited. This is pretty close to being ready to go here. I just really hope this wasn't $159 in the toilet, or 160 something by the time I was done shipping and all that. Hey, if it is, then lesson learned. Expensive lesson, but one way or the other lesson learned. Oh, you dummy. So this goes on here like this. It's like a dust shield. The one thing about this medical stuff, ow, dummy again, stenods. You know, maybe the wife is right. This has got to get attached to that. You know what? I guess I better do that, huh? Now these had a little blue Loctite on them. I'm going to bend this because I don't feel like not bending it. The only reason I'm putting these back in is I didn't like this thing flopping around the way it was. And it was flopping around. So I'm going to put this back in. I think even if I have to run a bypass again, I think I will reattach this. This thing was flopping all over the place. And hard joints don't like to move. So every time I was plugging it or unplugging it, we were getting some floppage. You know, nobody likes a floppy rod, so nobody likes a floppy rod, and hard joints don't like floppy connections. So I'm not going to crank these down super duper tight, but I'm going to bottom them out. There we go. That in there. There. That screw back in. Okay, so, oh, you rotten booger. Why do something once when you can do it twice, right? This line's outside of this, which eventually I was thinking about maybe putting a cover back on it, because my my shop does double duty here, and as a wood shop also. So this machine is getting dirty in a way that it probably shouldn't be. And putting the cover back on it will help it in a couple different ways. One is it'll help with the cooling, because it's designed to suck air from underneath and then past and then out the vent in the back here. Which cools the cylinder heads, it cools everything. And I think one of the things that goes wrong with these is they get overheated. Okay, let's throw this thing back up on the wall and see if it works. Okay, so here we are. Everything's basically done. I replumbed it into this manifold here. This manifold's a different. Just ignore this manifold. So basically, this is my intake oxygen, or the oxygen coming out of my oxygen concentrators, and then it goes down there into the machine. That's all hooked back up. All the fittings are hooked back up. The whip's hooked back up. The oxygen concentrator is on and running, and I'm purging the lines of air. Let's see what the oxygen concentrator is doing. Oxygen concentrator is warmed up. So basically, I'm gonna actually shut. Now I gotta leave that valve open. These valves are actually fucky. I should put this valve up here, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. Doesn't matter. I also have my my purge valve open. There's a purge valve here that's open, which is actually not blowing anything. Okay. The other thing I have really handy is a bottle leak check. So normally when I leak check stuff, I'll use this big squirt bottle, because I do a lot of leak checking. I leak check everything. As soon as I change a fitting, before I do anything, I always leak check it, because you never know. You don't want leaks. It's just that simple. So I also have this little bottle of leak check, and the leak check is just Dawn dishwashing detergent. I've used commercial leak check. I talked to the guys at Keen, and it's just Dawn dishwashing detergent. I've been using it for 100 years. I'm sorry, Larry Literals on the internet. I've been using it for 35 years. And this is just what I use. Literally just a couple drops of Dawn dishwashing detergent. No palm olive, nothing with lanolin in it or anything. This is what they use to clean little ducks with, so it should be pretty safe for pretty much anything. And that's what I've always used, and I've never had a problem with it. I mention that for those who know. Because there's always some fucking internet expert out there that's telling me I'm doing it wrong. Well, you know what? We'll find out. The other thing we're going to find out is whether or not this thing decides to shit the bed immediately. I haven't test run this. This is right off of this is the deal right here. We're running it. I'm actually going to shut this valve off. The oxygen compressor, the condenser is reached purity already, which the DeVilbiss one works pretty quick, and it takes about, there we go. Sounds better. We are now charging. Alright, so I close the valve. Let's see what it does. Well, it's building pressure a lot faster. Sounds good. I take that back. It's already starting to knock. I just want to see the valves a little better. I had actually rotated the tank because I wanted to see the valves when I was doing it. I'm going to get my leak check out here and do a quick leak check. So what I'm doing is I'm checking all the fittings, I'm checking the heads. reached 1,000 psi in the mount. Remember, I'm just charging the whip. If it's going to blow up, I'd rather it blow up at the whip and not anything else. I haven't started a fire yet, which is always a good sign. I do have a fire extinguisher literally right here, within arm's reach. There's actually one under the machine too. Which is kind of a stupid place to keep a fire extinguisher. Alright, we're over 1,000 pounds, which means we're into cylinders 4 and 5. I'm going to leak check again. Now, truth be told, I don't necessarily plan on running this thing this high anymore. The recommendation that I've read on a couple of different sites that I've gone to, they all say don't run over 1,000 pounds. And I'm good with that, actually. Because this thing's fucking useless anyway. So the only thing it's good for is making Christmas balls and beads. If I'm doing anything bigger, anything that requires the torch to be run for over an hour, full blast, a new noise I've never heard before. That's it. It reached 2,000 psi and shut off. So, I'm going to say that that was a success, at least for the time being. Thanks for watching, and there you go. Definitely sounded like 2,000 psi to me. All right, I'm going to shut it down.